Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Bits episode. You join me, Colton, Alex, and Dave to talk about the newly released Tesla Model Y L in our market. L standing for long. This car originally launched for the Chinese market and then quickly spread to other markets around the globe. It's essentially a puffed up version of the Model Y, longer, wider, and taller, with a 16% improvement in cargo volume and so much more. We do have some small adaptations for the US market, particularly around the power sharing capabilities and battery pack, of which we will definitely nerd out in this episode. We'll be talking about series and parallel count and getting really into the weeds. But I think in general, we just want to talk about Model YL to start off this episode, talk about the timing, the pricing, its competitive set, and then we'll really nerd out. I also want to commend Tesla for sending us and thank Tesla for sending us a very detailed description of everything the Model Y has to offer. And so I'll be running through all of the documentation they've provided in this episode, so that everyone has the deepest, clearest, most nerdy picture of the Model Y L for the North American market and Puerto Rico, which is kind of cool. So I guess we'll just start off with, we already have a full video on the Model Y L. I drove this car in China recently. I sat in every row. I used FSD in China on it, and I was really impressed just in general with the smoothness of the new adaptive suspension. They had like a rear comfort drive mode, which really helped control the body motions. And there was just a lot in there to really make, family life better for the Model Y. We all know the Model X recently ended production recently. And you know what? That car either needed a major refresh or to just go away. And clearly we know what direction Tesla took. The question is whether the Model Y L will fill its gap. And I think all of us would agree, and we'll get the impressions of everyone through the show, that Model Y L will be great for small families and certainly much more useful than the standard Model Y. However, it's not a full-size SUV replacement, and Coleton's actually got some sizing and charts so that you can hear how it stacks up against Ioniq 9, EV9, Vistic, even little things like EQB, which is a small 3-row, and the list goes on. So, Coleton, initially, what's your impression on Model Y L? Is this a shock or expected news that it's coming here?
I think very expected. I also think very exciting, especially when you start looking at this compared to other 3-rows out there. This seems like the value buy, and also with all the tech, full self-driving, all of Tesla's amazing things that they do, this seems really impressive. And I think a lot of the other 3-row electric SUV manufacturers need to be a little concerned about this, because I think it's going to take some serious sales away.
Are you guys looking for an opportunity to drive off in a brand new electric vehicle and support a nonprofit fighting for a greener planet? Well, I've got the program for you. Our friends at the CCAN Action Fund are back with their 8th annual EV raffle program, and it is so much fun. I'm going to tell you why you've got to enter. Each ticket gives you 3 chances to enter, and the prizes are absolutely amazing. You could win in the first prize a Rivian, a Porsche, or a Lucid up to $115,000, which is a ton of electric car. The second prize is also awesome. Rivian R2, highly anticipated, or you could choose from a Volkswagen ID Buzz or a Hyundai Ioniq as well. And there's even a third prize, which is the fantastic new Chevy Bolt. Each ticket costs only $200. Again, 3 chances to win with each purchase, and you're supporting a nonprofit. What's not to love? I don't even know which one I would choose if I was able to win. So ditch the high gas prices if you happen to win, and you support a nonprofit along the way. It's a great opportunity to visit evraffle.org to enter. Thanks so much to CCAN Action Fund for sponsoring this video. They even cover state and federal taxes.
There's just so many benefits for going with a Tesla over its competition. Not to mention you buy it direct from the consumer. Then you've got great app integration. You can easily share a phone key to a friend without hassle, which I'm dealing with on Rivian right now. It's just a bunch of convoluted mess. You can have dog mode. You can have the great supercharging network, which everyone has access to now. And we'll actually talk more about that to see if this car will charge better or worse than we expect. I can't wait to run it through testing. But just going with Tesla is the easy button. Everything just works. And a lot of people want to go about it the hard way. And that's great because we actually make videos on a lot of those other cars. And we would be out of business if everyone just chose a Tesla. But it is kind of the easiest car to recommend for most people. So, Alex, what's your impression on the Model Y L coming to the US, just briefly?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely expected. I'm kind of amazed that it took so long. I would think that this would have been, a car that would have just made for a really great fit in our market. And yeah, it just seems like it took a lot longer than I would have thought that it would. But yeah, it seems like a really practical option, probably even a bit more practical than the Model X was, to be honest. And yeah, pretty interested to see, what kind of changes they've really done in person.
Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about that Model X versus Model Y L comparison, but we actually have someone on the show, my dad, who's owned a Model X in the past, 2 of them actually, and has owned multiple Model Ys. So this should kind of sit right in the middle. So Dad, as someone who owns the newest current generation Model Y and previous X owners, what's your impression of the YL initially?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I think a lot of people who maybe had that need a little bit larger than a small family, needing a 3-row seat, they could never consider a Model Y in the past. They'd have to go look at an Ioniq 9 or an EV9 or something like that. Now they can. So I think they're going to sell a ton of these. Some of the problems that I found with at least the 6-seat configuration in the Model X has been solved here. This is also a 6-seat configuration, and you can fold down the middle row, which is a great thing because it was super impractical from a storage standpoint in the Model X. As large a vehicle as that was, it really was not as practical as even, quite frankly, a Model S was in terms of storage. So they did
that was only for the 6-seat.
6-seater, right? If you got a 5-seater or 7-seater in the X, the problem was solved. But I had the Plaid, and that was only available in the 6-seater, and so it was super impractical. But look, this is a really, I think it's something we expected to happen. But see that right there, that you got the armrests in the middle row in the Y now. The X didn't even have an armrest in the middle row. And that was uncomfortable. You'd like fall down when you were sitting on the passenger side. So they've done a lot of really interesting tweaks there. I think this thing's going to sell like crazy.
Well, let's just run through the website really quick, and then I'm going to pull up some documentation to go a little bit farther. But here you can see it's clearly a 6-seat configuration. It's only available as a 6-seat configuration, which Coleton loves captain's chairs. I hate captain's chairs. So Coleton, make your case first, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay. Yeah. So captain's chairs, I love because, first off, I have 2 golden retrievers. That's why we have an EV9 currently. And they love to have their own seats. And then one of them likes to lay down the middle, like a little, hot dog in 2 buns, essentially. I think it's nice to be able to get into the back seat as well without always having to fold the seat. So you can go through that middle aisle. That's always nice and convenient. I just find the benches to be a little bit more cumbersome, especially if you have a family. You're not going to put 3 child seats across there, so it's kind of nice to have them separated a little bit. I personally would rather go for a 6-seat every day over a 7-seat, but I'm curious to see why you like the bench, Kyle.
Yeah, well, I like it because the dogs don't fall into the middle. I know yours sit on the seat. I like to put everything down and then have a flat floor for them. The one thing we should say for all the animal and people, kids, lovers out there, you have A-pillar, I should say, you have front vents that are awesome. Then you have B-pillar vents for the rear, and then you have C-pillar vents for the 3rd row. We've been talking a lot about the Rivian R2 on this channel recently as a fantastic car for dog owners. There's no vents behind the 2nd row. If you put a dog all the way in the back, it's going to be baking back there unless you roll down that back glass. Which you're not going to do on the highway, of course. So in this car, it just has airflow for every position. And that's something Tesla has always nailed is HVAC. It's like 100 degrees today. I got in my Model S and boom, instantly it was cold. It's just got their new stuff has amazingly powerful thermal management. I do just want to bring up a quick photo here, which is this enough power to share. We'll go through the whole car front to rear, but this just popped out. When I had the Cybertruck, vehicle to home kit installed in my house, I literally had to break power to my home in order for it to back up my house. So it couldn't work dynamically with the grid. And I don't believe the Powerwall systems have integrated with the Cybertruck yet to like share power between the car and your Powerwalls. But here it's showing that you can. So I don't know if that's available at launch or if an upgraded version of PowerShare is coming. But really cool to think about your car as an extended home backup, just for time of use type pricing, more than just emergency power generation, which is pretty cool. So that's Model Y L Premium. Should we run through the configurator and then we'll run through all the specs, guys? So let's configure one the way we would want it. First of all, you can choose between 4 main Model Y models at the moment. You have Model Y Standard, which is just called Model Y. You can choose rear drive or all-wheel drive. How do I put this into not leasing or financing?
It's
Up
cash.
top at cash.
There we go. Oh, okay. Got it. All right. So $39,900 starting Model Y range. That's a pretty good price, but for a pretty poor car, in my opinion. It's very dark and dreary on the inside. It looks cheap. And I just was not a fan of the Model Y Standard. I was a big fan of Model 3 Standard, but this doesn't even have a waterproof front trunk. And it was just, you have to control the seat movement on the touchscreen. This was just not the move. And it felt a bit too cheap, in my opinion, for $40,000. So I would have said skip that one. You can get rear drive or all-wheel drive. Then you can bump up to premium, which to me is worth every penny. I know it's quite a bit more money. It's like a little over 10% more money, but it's really worth it. And Dad, this is what you have, a premium rear-wheel drive Model Y.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot if you just need a good daily car. I just reviewed that car, gave it a glowing review, and thought it had everything you need, nothing you don't. It's just the benchmark. It's so good. It's really awesome. Then you can, of course, choose all-wheel drive or rear drive. Rear drive's fine for most people. Then you spec up to the performance going in order of price. This car adds adaptive damper, significantly more power, a new battery pack that's assembled in Kentucky. The cells are at least still Panasonic 2170s. And it's a pretty spicy machine. Like, it's fast. It handles well. No track mode or anything like that, but they look good. Some styling changes. Really love to see the differentiation for Model Y performance. I don't think it's worth the extra money over premium personally, but some people want a one car that can do it all, and this is kind of that. You get the performance edge. And then sitting at the top is the new Launch Series Model Y long wheelbase premium. And this is considered a launch series, which means we don't actually know how this will be broken out into a model into the future, if it will come less expensive with less stuff in there, because the launch series comes with quite a few things included, such as door trim lights, suede dashboard, a launch series badge, more badging on the inside, floor mats, sill plates that are all specific, but also some other things such as autopilot for a year, or I should say FSD for a year. And do we know what else, Coleton, comes
Free
in the launch series?
supercharging as well. And then the cool
How
thing
long
with
is the
launch,
supercharging for?
I believe it's a year as well, right, Alex?
Yep.
Yep. And the cool thing as well, when they do launch series, you get free colors. So exterior and interior, wheel options as well, and even getting like tow hitch and everything like that. It's all bundled into this package. The interesting point I just quickly want to make here, the Model Y Juniper, when it launched as a launch series, launched for $59,990. This is only $2,000 more than that, which seems like a crazy value.
Yeah, that's one hell of a deal. Holy smokes. Yeah, putting that in perspective. There's a new color here as well, Cosmic Silver, which is that same color that I showed you guys on the Chinese car that I was playing around with. I'll see if I can pull it up here in the showroom. And it's a nice color. It's a little bit bronzy more than silver. What do you think of that, Coleton?
Really like it. I think Tesla needs more color options in general, but we also have that new maritime blue as well that replaced the, what was deep blue metallic?
Right.
Or marine blue. Sorry, my bad on that. Yep. So that's cool to see. Stealth gray, pearl white, marine blue, diamond black, ultra red, and then that cosmic silver. Cool.
Very cool. You also have two different wheel and tire sizes, a 19 or 20 inch, no cost difference between them for the launch series. A 5 mile range hit going for the 20 inch. I think the 20 inch looks really good. I do not like that 19-inch wheel. At least it feels almost Chinese to me. And maybe so many things on this car feel kind of Chinesey because that's where the car was introduced. And so, I've got that vibe already. It's not a bad thing. But I actually don't mind. I don't love it, but I think the 20-inch Uber Helix wheel would be my choice here. What would you do, Colton?
Well, what's interesting is I'm not sure we've actually seen these before. I could be totally wrong. I haven't looked at the Chinese website. I have never seen those wheels before. So I think these are actually new for the US Model YL version, which will be interesting to see. I personally don't love the 19s, but people do want range as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have not seen them as well in person, so that's pretty cool.
Well,
Then-
Coleton, I was just going to say that it's only a 5 mile EPA hit from 19 to 20. Usually it's a lot more than that. So
It is, sure. And that could be based on, even just the actual tire as well, who
Right.
is speccing that. I mean, the thing to go for, though, here is this is not a performance car. You want this thing to be as comfortable as possible. You're going to get the most out of that 19 as well. So, pros and cons, aesthetics-wise versus comfort, a little bit more range as well.
Yeah, that's a good point on the comfort. And it's also important to note that, yes, wheel size is not always directly related to range as well. It really comes down to the tire. Because sometimes if you put a really thick tire on, thinking like Cybertruck, you get so much more tire oscillation and tire deflection that eat up your range compared to a bigger wheel with a smaller tire sidewall with the same OD. Interior, I'm kind of bummed, but the white interior is gone. A lot of people seem to like this Zen gray. I've seen it in person. The thing that I've always loved about the white interior cars is all of the center console was black. So it was literally just the seats, and you had this awesome contrast of bright white, but in a few places, and then a black interior everywhere else. This Zen gray is like everything that they could make Zen gray is Zen gray. And then, obviously with a dark headliner, which is a real big win. I would still go with the light color interior between the two. Alex, I know you're a dark interior guy. We talked about this yesterday because you work at a shop, obviously, and everything's dirty. But Dad, I'd be curious to see what you would go with.
Yeah, I'd go light. But interestingly, I didn't really know that wasn't white until Coleton pointed it out. I haven't seen it, but I like a light interior.
Okay.
Rest being, that same Zen gray. I'd go white. I'd go the Zen gray. Yeah.
Interesting. You can see they have a seating comparison chart here where you can get a 7-seat in the standard Model Y all-wheel drive, but not in the long wheelbase premium. Isn't that funny?
That's how it should be.
Yeah. Okay. If Coleton could do product planning, this is what would happen.
Yeah. Well, I would never put a 7-seater in the base Model Y, but we can skip over that.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you can only get the 7-seat with all-wheel drive on the premium.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe it has something to do with, who knows? Maybe just more weight up front to balance out payload. I don't know. I will say I've sat in the third row of this car. I showed you a clip earlier of me sitting back there. I'll pull it back up where I'm in the third row. I'm 6'1", 1m86. I actually fit perfectly fine in the first, second, and third row, all behind myself. I was really impressed with how much actual head room there was. I'm right up on that rear glass, so hopefully a tree doesn't fall on the back of the car. But in general, it was just about the same as Model X third row was my impression. Getting back there was kind of a pain, though, because you have to go through this center pass-through, like this little area. The seat doesn't like tilt and move forward. At least I didn't figure that out. So it was very awkward to get into the third row, having to go between the two seats. It doesn't just kind of tilt and slide out of the way, which is something I would have preferred. Back to designing. Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, I guess the second row seats are powered, right? So there's no easy way to just tilt everything forward. You have to power it and wait for everything to move if you were to try and do it that way.
Exactly. So let's see. They have your wall connector and then everything there. So we're basically $63,000, includes destination. and everything. It's quite a bit of money for a Model Y. You know, a BMW iX3 all day is in that 60 to, I built one out like pretty nicely spec'd. It was 67,000. That's only 2-row. This is really kind of in a market of its own. So Coleton, I was hoping you could walk us through a little bit of how this stacks up against the competition before I run through all of the accolades and sort of technical details about the Model YL.
Okay. So the interesting thing here is I kind of think this sits in almost a class of its own in terms of size. But the interesting thing as well is this fully spec'd out, at least for the launch edition, basically is where a Kia EV9 starts at on a lower trim for all-wheel drive. And here you have, yes, more range, I think a way better car in general overall. So that's pretty interesting. The other story, though, is size-wise on this, because Model Y does seem like quite a small compact car. And if you actually look at it, it's 188.6 inches long. Now, the Model YL here is 195.9 inches long. So, okay, now let's take that into consideration, because you would think, okay, like R1S is a huge vehicle compared to that, but R1S is only 200.8 inches. So not a massive difference there. The interesting thing as well is something like an EV9, 197.2. So literally 2 inches longer or so than a Model YL. That's pretty surprising. As well as even a Model X. This is about 4 or 3.5 inches shorter than a Model X, which is kind of interesting. So the reason I say it's kind of in a class of its own is it's because it's almost like right in between a, you know, pretty proper size Model Y versus like a big boy SUV. But I do think it's going to be slightly bigger than people initially expect this to be. Because when you hear Tesla say, oh, it's, you know, 6 inches or whatever longer than a Model Y, it doesn't sound like that much until you put it in your garage and you're like, oh, this is a lot bigger car. And then you see the bubble on the back of this. It's quite a hefty beast, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it from this angle in particular, I mean, this thing looks pretty bulbous from certain angles. I saw them pretty commonly around Beijing already, and you can pretty easily tell when it's a YL versus not. It just has that sort of, okay, you stuck an air pump into it and pumped it up a little bit vibe. It's also got a rear spoiler on it, which is interesting for a non-performance variant, but it must have had something to do...
Launch spec.
Say that again?
Launch spec. Didn't they do the same thing with the regular Y?
No. Did they, Coleton?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, maybe
I think, I mean, this has been when they launched this in, you know, in China as well as the other countries that have it now. It's always had a spoiler. I think this is going to be design intent. These are all going to have spoilers. Interesting how that roof glass also comes all the way down to that spoiler and kind of meets it. Very different from Model Y. You know, performance, you have a 6 or 7 inch gap there in between it for that spoiler. And the CD on this was actually pretty impressive. You know, for how large the vehicle is, it was actually surprisingly decent. Let me see if I can
so it's
pull it back up.
It's 0.216 total CD. But
Seems
again,
pretty good.
Yeah, that has to be, of course, multiplied by frontal area.
Right.
So should we run through all the details on this thing? Okay,
Let's do
I'm
it.
going to let the video play in the background, which will be this. Should we do interior or exterior shots? What do you think, Coleton?
I think interior is the most important. It kind of looks like a Model Y, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let the interior play here. Okay. While we're doing that, let me just get my projection voice on, and I'm just going to read you the press materials that Tesla has sent to us. Yes, by the way, Tesla does have a media department, contrary to popular belief. Model YL premium long wheelbase is Tesla's most significant launch of the year. Does that mean no Roadster?
Or Cybercab?
Yeah, what about Cybercab?
That seems way more significant than a 3-row SUV.
Or the semi that launched earlier.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Dad?
Bold statement. I read it and didn't think what you just said. Now that you've said it, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, this is model. So this
I
is
don't know
from
that
Tesla.
I
The
don't
Model
know
Y. it seems crazy that this is the most significant launch of the year.
You know, I do have a crazy thought, and I'll just say it here, and then you guys can jump on all over me. But do you think the regular Model Y is going to live on, or is this just going to become the new Model Y and they're going to kill the existing one?
No, standard Model Y will be out for sure, and I think that will still outsell this by quite a bit. This is really just, it's quite a bit more money than a Model Y. I mean, what is the price difference again? I mean, it's significant at the moment.
12 grand.
Let's go up to the top. I mean, let's just go all-wheel drive. I mean, yeah, it's like 12 grand. And most people don't need all-wheel drive. So then you're talking like $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 price difference between the two. This is really for the families who want a Tesla, who I think are willing to squeeze themselves into the YL.
Yeah, I'll just before you, I just would say this. This is a launch edition, which has got a lot of the extra toys on it, right? Including 12 months FSD. So that 12 grand is going to start coming down and down and down. Well, we don't have to play around with that thought, but that you asked me what I thought, and I was like, maybe that is because it's the most significant launch, decision of the year. But who knows? Right now, we got two versions of the Y. So,
I can't actually share this document with you, but I can read everything on it. So I'm just going to do that. If you think that's all right, Coleton, don't you think?
Love it.
Yeah. All right. So, it's the most significant launch of the year. A purpose-built long wheelbase 6-seat SUV that
He gone.
Disappeared.
that felt like I hit the wrong button type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, as soon as I started reading that document, I got kicked out of the podcasting studio, but we're back. So, it gives the Model Y a roomier 3-row form. A stretched platform adds 7 inches of body length and 6 inches to the wheelbase. That's quite a bit. 6 inches to a wheelbase can alter the handling dynamics of a car. I drove it in a city environment. I was super impressed with the noise performance. It's quieter than the normal Model Y and much more comfortable, especially with the rear comfort suspension selected, which will probably make it super squishy, which I prefer. Let's see. It creates real space for 6 adults across all 3 rows, plus generous cargo room and a sleek silhouette with a remarkably low 0.216 drag coefficient, among the lowest of any SUV we built. 6-seat, 3-row, second-row captain's chairs include heating and ventilation, dedicated rear air vents, and refined climate controls. The third row is sized to comfortably fit 2 adults with up to 31 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom, heating in the third row, power recline in the third row, and one-touch flat folding, which is a really nice thing. You open up the trunk, boom, hit a button, everything goes down. Heated third row seats. Model X had that. That's really awesome. There's also USB ports back there. We'll get into all of that throughout this document. They say that this is a dynamic fastback profile rarely seen in 6-seat SUVs, with up to 89.7 cubic feet of cargo room and a wider lift gate opening, I assume than Model Y, for big loads. So you can put your big loads in the Model Y L. Good to know. Technology for everyone, a 16-inch display and 19-speaker audio system with dedicated rear center channel, adaptive damping, and more. So that's adaptive damping suspension, complemented by Tesla software. Safety in every seat. Has side and curtain airbags across all 3 rows, including head-protecting side airbags for third-row occupants. Wow. So how does that slip up around your head? I don't know. We might need to crash test one of these. Hopefully not, though. Knock on wood. Yeah, we already discussed the drag coefficient. Okay, so it's 179 millimeters longer than normal Model Y, which is 7 inches, 6 inches of extended wheelbase, 150 millimeters, and most of this is just a repeat. I'm going to see if there's anything else cool. It's 1.7 inches taller than normal Model Y, so that's 43 millimeters. It offers more headroom across all 3 rows. It has UV blocking, heat reflecting roof glass, and laminated acoustic rear glass to keep the interior cool and quiet. Rear quarter windows offer roughly 3 times the viewing area of other Model Y trims. So that's the big windows back there. And I should say big. I went to go clean the windows of your Model Y the other day, Dad, and I had to use like my pinky finger to clean them. They're like that big.
Yeah. Did you say you were cleaning my car? Oh, keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, we wiped it down because the dog was in it.
Yeah, no.
Okay, let's see what else we have. Aluminum liftgate. We were talking about how that rear glass is shaped a little bit differently from, well, it's actually funny. Every version of Model Y now has different glass, right? So standard, premium, and L. I guess performance uses the premium glass. Yeah, so the standard car uses the old Model Y tailgate. The premium uses the like multi-piece with plastic thing.
Yeah, squared.
And then this uses the squared off glass that comes all the way down to the edge of the spoiler. And it's stiffer than the Model Y Premium. I assume it's making a bunch of comparisons, I assume, to the normal Model Y. It's stiffer, but roughly 17.6 pounds lighter than steel. So it's an aluminum liftgate. Okay. It's a integrated 2-tone spoiler, sporty and aerodynamic, generating up to 90 pounds of rear downforce at speed with no added drag. So that's why I think they put the spoiler on there. Of course, it must have not passed Moose test or some sort of stability thing at high speed without that rear spoiler. The brake light is relocated to the spoiler, which frees up third row headroom and improves cabin daylight opening. I didn't realize that. So the spoiler has a taillight in it?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's integrated
I'm
in there.
looking at the video you have playing, you can see how thin like the bezel on the hatch was on the inside.
Yeah, well, take a look there. I totally missed that when I reviewed the car. You can actually see the little cutout for where the chimsel is below the spoiler. That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one good way to get headroom back. Let's continue. And we talked about the different wheel designs. Okay, so the front row has new 16-way power seats, heated and ventilated with 4-way lumbar and 2-way adjustable headrest. I forget exactly if that's in or out. I think it is. It has a powered thigh cushion length extender with a push out and rotate mechanism, which means it kind of folds out like this. And the blind spots remain minimal, so visibility is not compromised. The second row has powered seat movement for fore and aft, deep recline. They really go way the heck back. And they have an armrest and 2-way headrest for seamless comfort. One cool thing, Alex, I've never seen this specification before, but the second row seat is heated and ventilated. And they actually quantified the power of their second row heating system, which
Really?
I've never seen. Colton, would you like to read it for everyone?
I'm trying to find it here. I was just looking at that segment. If you have it, go ahead.
Page 3, top of page 3.
Heated.
Top of page 2. I'm sorry.
Okay. Powered seat movement, forward, aft, and 2-way. I don't see it on here. What do you mean?
It's the one right below that.
Oh, mine's on the next page. Heated and ventilated, can reach 104 degrees F within 2 minutes at 5 degrees ambient.
So if it's 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside, the seat can reach 104 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 minutes.
That's insane.
Man,
That's
you could
what's
fry
fast.
some eggs on that thing.
Element.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a good way to drain the battery pack for charge testing. Put the heated seats on.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild. Has powered armrests with one-touch deploy and retract. Automatically stows away so you can fold the seats down. It has personalized face-level air vents for balanced temperature distribution across rows. That should be a test that we do, is actually look at the temperature delta within the vehicle. That is such a benefit Tesla focuses on. I really appreciate that. Has a stowaway cup holder, which basically just folds into the front console, if you will. And good news is there's dedicated USB Type-C ports for the rear, and they're both 65 watts.
Love it.
That's really awesome. Then for the third row, they have spacious third row seats for adults, plus enhanced legroom and headroom. Heated seats with dedicated air vents for third row passengers. Power recline and one-touch fold flat. integrated seat belts with child restraint anchors and a seat integrated side airbag for occupant safety, and dedicated USB-C ports, but the third row only gets 27 watts. Which is still
Not going to have a kid back there working on a MacBook anyway.
Yeah, it's fine regardless. So you've got Zen Gray interior as an option. They're perforated vegan leather for seats and a wrapped interior. Oh, and they also wrap interior trims with that same material. It's funny that they call it vegan leather officially.
Yeah, they always have. What the thing I'm curious about, Kyle, is I noticed you mentioned in China when you're actually sitting in this car, you were not impressed with the seat materials, and you actually said that it's very different from the US. I'm curious to see if this is like a totally new seat material in general, because Tesla, in my impression, other than Rivian, I would say their leather or vegan leather materials are better, but Tesla is very much up there. I'm curious to see what we'll get here in the States.
Yeah, this felt kind of like it was wearing poorly and it felt tired in the showroom. Yeah, I forgot about that, but that really jogs my memory there. Yeah, I was not impressed with the seating material, and the Zen Gray didn't have a great feel either. So hopefully the ones that are here will be better. Do we know what factory will be building these? I guess it's got to be Austin.
I would assume, unless Fremont, they freed up space now, but that was for Optimus. I don't know what's going on there. I would assume this is coming out of Austin.
The sound system is something that's really important to, I think, all of us. We all love music. We all love jamming out. Teslas have always had incredible audio systems on offer. And so this one should be maybe the best. Got to be up there. I mean, Cybertruck rocks. But let's see what this says. This is 18 speakers plus one dedicated subwoofer. It's an immersive cinematic sound system tuned to work as one cohesive whole, powered by Tesla's immersive sound system. It has 4 overhead speakers that help create this immersive sound experience. A dedicated rear center channel speaker brings clear, vivid sound to all 3 rows. So rear seat audio is on par with the front. That's cool.
That's a big deal.
Yes. It includes metal mesh speaker grills that are decorative, functional, and dust-proof. Dust-proof speaker grills. Colton, I think you got to test that.
Yeah, we will.
Of course, it's got cellular, Wi-Fi, ultra-wideband, Bluetooth connectivity, and FM and HD radio. So they did not remove FM radio for this. A rear screen for entertainment, wireless Bluetooth gaming support for up to 2 controllers or headrests. Now we get into the power stuff.
Hey, Kyle, just one thing on the front seats. 3 comments. No massaging seats, which... X and S never had that. Tesla, to my knowledge, never had in any of their vehicles. That's an interesting, I don't want to say miss, but I think that would have been a great opportunity to introduce massaging seats into this. One of the things that I find as a driver of the Y, and also even in my Model 3, like yours, Colton, I felt like my head always goes back too far. So I put those headrests. Which, by the way, Kyle, as soon as he got the Y, he ripped those things out and threw them away. But this has,
I did.
Yeah, I know you did, and we can't find them because they're in the garbage somewhere in North Carolina.
They might be in the sub trunk.
In the sub trunk? No. Well, you mean by the modern spare?
There were some like pillow headrests.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look in there. There you go. But these have these little headrests now that pop out. Kyle, when you were in China, do you remember how much motion they had on the headrest?
Well, that's what I'm looking at right here, and I'm wondering if I showed anyone that, and I don't think I did. But it definitely, I don't know if they go up or down or in and out. I think they
definitely go up and down, because you can see the driver's side is lower than the passenger.
Oh, yeah. Good call. Good eye.
Yeah. So they don't extend out. They just go.
Okay. They just go. Yeah. And then one last thing, the thigh bolsters, Colton, on the difference in the Model 3 performance, which is a little bit tight compared to the Model Y performance, which is a little bit relaxed. This looks pretty relaxed, but it's not as if it's a performance seat, but it definitely has some structural, thigh bolsters there. So it seems like it's going to be flat enough for a guy like me.
I would not be surprised if this is actually the same base seat as the Model Y Performance because of that thigh extension, and the bolsters are a little bit nicer rounded. These seats look fantastic in these. I'm super excited to sit in these. They look really, really good.
Yeah, those thigh bolsters don't really do anything for big, tall guys.
Right.
They come up and they don't really support me at all, just because my legs are too high. But yeah, no, I just wanted to share my thoughts on those front seats, and it looks great though, really does.
Very cool. Thanks for the thoughts, Dad. I want to talk a little bit, continuing through this document. Tesla really did an amazing job giving us all the information on this car, which I really appreciate. So they have V to L functionality. You can turn your vehicle into a mobile power bank. You can use your vehicle's battery and the Tesla outlet adapter, which plugs into the NACS port on the rear and basically gives you 120 volt up to 20 amps, which is 2.4 kilowatts of power. So you can power, during an outage, get a power strip, plug your refrigerator into it, plug your microwave, plug your stove. If you have an induction cooktop, you could really power anything. You get 2.4 kilowatts of power.
Now that's the same as what's in the Model Y Performance. Is that correct?
Same as Model Y Performance and same as Cybertruck offers this as well.
Remember when you were showing that picture of the car in the garage and you were mentioning something about it not being able to power your house? Is that different from V2L?
Yes, that's V to H, and we'll get to that point right now.
Okay.
Which is you can use your vehicle's battery and the Tesla outlet adapter to power your other devices and appliances, including space heaters, e-bikes, and power tools. We already talked about that. With Powerwall 3, you can also use the energy stored in your vehicle's battery to extend the duration of your home backup. And I'm not sure as to what level. The lights keep shutting off in this room. Alex, I really need you to wire in a switch for me, please. Thank you. We have the switch sitting over here. We just got to wire it in. So that's kind of cool. I'm excited for that. I think when you have a big battery, this is 83 kilowatt hours manufacturer claimed capacity. Let me do what I want with my energy. The one thing that I think would have been really nice to see is some sort of 240 volt outlet on this, like Cybertruck. Tesla's shown that they've done NEMA 1450s in the past. You really can't do that out of the NACS port because you kind of have to choose single split phase or go for a 240 volt line voltage. Maybe if it had CCS2, we could have done that, but we decided to go NACS as a country and not with the old school Euro connector, if you will. So you can only get 120 volt out of the NACS connector, which is kind of a bummer, but I think that's fine. Alex, what do you think? Would you have preferred to see a NEMA 1450 plug somewhere in this car?
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty nice if they had integrated that. But yeah, without being able to have three phases, at the charge port, that kind of makes that not really possible.
Well, I guess, is that true? Because Lucid can do 240 volt vehicle to vehicle charging with NACS.
Right. I guess if there was some way for the car to know, which this would be pretty simple to implement, which adapter you had plugged into it, whether to output 120 or 240 volts, maybe they could have made it go either way.
Right. I guess you just couldn't do both out of one outlet.
Right. You couldn't
without
do both
some sort
at
of
the same
box.
time.
Right. So that's really cool, at least that you can export some power. I would have also loved to see a household plug in the vehicle permanently for you to plug into, maybe in the trunk, similar to like what Rivian and Cybertruck has. I really think Tesla needs to let you use your energy how you want. And that includes putting more ports around the vehicle, supporting vehicle to vehicle charging, perhaps even DC charging between vehicle to vehicle, but then you would need a buck boost converter, so that wouldn't work. But I can dream. All right, let's talk about more suspension stuff. This is kind of cool. It has adaptive damping firmware. Of course, it has adaptive dampers on a pretty soft spring. It says their latest generation of damping controls deliver the best ride comfort to every row without compromising vehicle performance and safety. And I think this is going to be very similar to Model Y performance, actually, versus Model 3 performance. Model 3 performance uses like a separate ECU to handle suspension tuning, versus in Model Y performance, it's all roped into one centralized controller for vehicle dynamics. Very similar to like BMW's Heart of Joy driving dynamics controller. It's a next generation technology. This has that, which means it's taking into account all of your inputs as the driver, all of the vehicle stuff. It's what's happening from yaw, pitch, and roll, and then determining what motor gets power, what suspension needs to get stiffer or softer, and it's controlling the whole vehicle dynamics in real time. This is kind of the 2026 year of the, I would say, vehicle model ECU, and this has got it, and it's going to be so cool to experience out here, to throw it from everything from, like, if we drive it on the grass next to the track and then throw it into a hard corner on the track, bring it right on, you should see a totally different vehicle behavior almost instantly based off of the situation that it's in. So I'm really excited about that.
Kyle, what was your impression of the suspension? Because I know you got to drive this. Did good overall?
Yeah, I think I got it up to like 30 miles an hour sitting in Beijing traffic. So not much, but very smooth. All the speed bumps. It's very much tuned for like the Chinese style, because they put speed bumps everywhere in China and other weird undulations. And this was nice. I wish they, like, if they really wanted to go crazy, they could have done like a sway bar disconnect, like an active roll stabilization disconnect, which would have been awesome, but that gets things a little bit more complicated. This is an interesting point on energy efficiency. They say they have an innovative new torque control strategy that boosts driving range.
Interesting. And range on this, I feel, is like pretty decent, 325 miles EPA. Quickly, while we're on that topic, what do you guys think of battery pack capacity on this thing?
83 kilowatt hours?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with Model Y. It kind of breaks the rules of battery capacity because they are so efficient. Right. So, I mean, I've been living with my parents' Model Y, and it's not the best performer with range, but it has more than enough range to charge it to 80% every day and do what you need to do. And on a road trip, it's actually pretty impressive. I mean, I was getting consistently 270, 280, 290 miles out of that car sitting on the highway in FSD. So I think this should be similar, probably 290 at 70 miles an hour, maybe 300 at 70. Maybe it'll break that. Dad, what do you think? Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Or maybe you can.
Sorry. There we go. What's the weight difference between this and the regular Y?
We'll get to that in a minute. I can look here really quick.
The range, so
4612.
What's the normal Model Y?
Because you're talking 325 versus 320, 19 versus 20 wheels, EPA, all-wheel drive.
19 and 19.
Oh, they're both 19s?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, I missed that. Versus our rear-wheel drive is 357 EPA, and we're getting.
But you have to compare all-wheel drive to all-wheel drive.
No, I understand. I get that. But it's 320 miles of, you're going to get 275 miles of range on the highway with this vehicle.
Yeah.
Realistically. And, you know, and that's fine. I think that's great.
I think it's fine. I mean, Coleton, I wouldn't expect them to put a much bigger battery in this.
I was really just curious, because the thing that seems like is happening now is we're starting to see iX3, a lot of the Germans as well, starting to get bigger battery packs. And Tesla's approach has always been, hey, instead of hauling around a bunch of extra weight, let's make the cars very efficient. And especially, you even compare this to Ioniq 9, EV9, it's matching those ranges, if not beating those, with a substantially smaller battery pack. And, you know, this versus my EV9 is, 17 kilowatt hours less, but also does 40 miles more range EPA. So that's really impressive. I was just curious what you guys thought. And this is also 400 pounds heavier, it seems like, just from some quick looking here, than a premium Model Y all-wheel drive.
Interesting. Yeah. And I'm really curious what they mean by their innovative new torque control strategy to boost driving range. Does that mean they disconnect the front axle with a clutch connect like they're doing on Semi? Does that mean that they're probably not, because it's permanent magnet rear, induction front, I would assume, but I guess we don't know for sure. What could be innovative about torque control strategies? I mean, maybe they're just choosing to power the motor with the best gear ratio for the driving test, but they've kind of always done that. Tesla's always played around with torque management. You could put like a Model S Raven in range mode, for example, or maybe even some of the other stuff, and it basically just shuts the front motor off in some cars, or shuts the rear motor off in the Raven cars where it's permanent magnet front. Tesla's always played around with this. So Alex, what do you think that could mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. That might be another thing to look at in the theory of operations and see if we can find anything about that.
Yeah, because the only thing that would be new for them would be a clutch disconnect, which I always thought Tesla would be against until they really started touting it on the Semi.
Yeah, Semi's kind of a totally different sort of use case situation, though, I suppose.
Yeah, true. And then they talk a little bit about FSD, which we all know how amazing FSD is. And that's the real competitive advantage that Model Y has over any vehicle in its class. You hit a button and it pretty much drives itself. Now, in China, that's not a competitive advantage. Other systems do just as well, if not better, versus the FSD that's available in China right now. But in North America, this has got it. And that is a life-changing technology. Dad, do you want to just say a few words on FSD? Maybe now's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, FSD is it's remarkable, right? What was interesting was when I handed you the car a couple months ago, I think Kathy, my wife, had been driving it, and it only had been about 58% of the time was FSD. And Kyle, you took it and you were like, I think you must have driven it 99% of the time, because when I got the car, it was 89% FSD. And so we drove it from North Carolina down here, hardware 4. I think I just got 14.3.4 the other night, which seemed to have a lot of interesting little minor updates in it. We're still getting to know it. But the thing is unbelievable. I mean, it's just crazy. Here's a car you get in, and I know, Colton, you're a driver, so I don't want to upset you here, but you get in this thing, you push a button, and it drives you wherever the heck you want to go, and it actually backs you into the charger much better than it used to. So I'm a huge fan of this FSD. Now, if you don't want it, just turn it off and drive the car, and it drives great. It's a fun car to drive. It's quick off the line, and I'm talking about the rear wheel drive. So, it's just fascinating to think where FSD is today compared to, let's say, 2.5 years ago, Kyle, when we used to laugh at it. I remember laughing at it. Like, this will never do what it does. So, look, I know a lot of people know FSD is great, so you're not hearing anything you don't know. But if you haven't experienced it, just go out there, and the car is making a lot of natural choices in its driving dynamics. Its ability to so I'll sit there and go, that's exactly what I would have done in that situation. The number of times that's happened to me over the last week and a half driving this Model Y, that's exactly how I would drive it. It's just great. It really is.
Yeah, clearly they never trained it off Model Y drivers, because most of them suck at driving. Is always the funny thing to think about. Colton, you remember when Tesla's like, you got to use your car so it can learn? And it's like, thank God they ignored all of that.
Yeah, especially from all the Model Ys you see that are just like pre-curbed from the factory with their wheels. I mean, every single Model Y you see is just like full curb rash on them, I swear.
Yeah, it's like it somehow attracts the worst type of driver. And FSD is not helping driver skill, because your brain shuts off when you use it. Okay, let's run through some other specs that we haven't talked about. Weight, we mentioned, was 4,612 pounds. In the intro to this video, I mentioned the Model Y L was wider. It is not. It is unchanged width from the standard car. Excuse me, and there's my correction. The battery pack is using Panasonic 2170 cells, 83 kilowatt hours. We'll nerd out with Alex here at the end a little bit of some stuff that he found in Toolbox. 125 mile an hour top speed, which is pretty low, but whatever. 0 to 60 is 4.4 seconds. And I don't know if that includes rollout or not. Usually not, unless it's a performance vehicle. Then they try and game the system a little bit. We discussed the 19-speaker sound system, and we mentioned that this has 400 liters or 16% more cargo volume than the normal Model Y. It also has 2.7 inches higher second row headroom than the normal car. And what else?
1.7.
2.7 inches higher second row headroom.
Oh, second row. Okay. Got it.
And
So, Kyle, I just want to ask you about that because I think you've always had the comment that you can't sit low enough in a Model Y. You always want to be able to put the seat down another couple inches. When you sat in this vehicle or drove it in China, did you feel like that wasn't a problem because it had a higher roof line, or do you not really?
no, my issue is never the headroom. I want floor room. I want no floor room. I want to be down. It's not because I want more headroom. It's because I want to be more connected to the chassis of the car. I want to feel the movements
I got you.
of what it's doing. So no, you do still feel like you're sitting up high, which to a lot of people is a benefit. But to me and Coleton, we like to be nice and low.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. I agree.
We should mention in their supercharging estimate, they say you get 164 miles added in 15 minutes of supercharging. And the way they calculate that is not based off EPA range. If I remember correctly, Tesla, when they quote charging performance like this, they quote fleet data at 65 miles an hour speed. So real world 65 mile an hour cruising is 164 miles. So it's basically, think of it as our 10% challenge where we show up at 10%, charge for 15 minutes. Same idea. We just run 80 miles an hour instead of 65. So let's say this will do the same as every Model Y, which is exactly what your car did recently. Dad did really well. It's like 110, 120 miles in 15 minutes of charging. So it'll be similar. I do want to talk a little bit more about this battery pack, though, because it's interesting. When will deliveries of Model Y L Premium begin? First deliveries are expected to begin in September. Always refer to the configurator for the latest delivery timing. It is also eligible for the Refer and Earn program, and it is eligible for the Everyday Heroes program, which is their military program. And I think that kind of covers everything. It has HEPA filter and bioweapon defense mode. It's got a comprehensive noise, vibration, and harshness package. It's very quiet in there. And yeah, with acoustic laminated door and roof glass, first and second row. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything. The launch series, just to confirm, gives you badging, 1 year of FSD supervised subscription, 1 year of premium connectivity, 1 year of complimentary supercharging, premium exterior and interior, which is the, niceties in there. You can choose whichever wheels you want at no charge. You get the Tesla outlet adapter included, and it includes a tow hitch, which is 3,500 pounds of towing with Model YL. So, Alex, you want to walk us through some nerd stuff?
Indeed. So I've got the theory of operations pulled up for Model Y here. And this image that we can see right here is the battery packs for Model Y. So over here on the left side would be battery packs that you'd expect to find both in Model 3 and Model Y, pre-existing. And then over here on the right-hand side is the battery pack for the Model YL. So it's a little bit longer, of course, but you can also see it has this much more flat penthouse lid cover. And presumably that's for packaging, right? The new second row seats have seat rails that allow the seats to move back and forth. And of course, you want to be able to get through into the third row. So they brought the height of that down so that the actual floor height can be lower where the seats are there. And because of the packaging, it's got a few other differences internally as well. Yeah, this one over here would be Model YL. It has a totally different high voltage controller.
Are you able to blow that up a little bit?
I can, yeah, there we go.
And if you could hit like Control Plus or just zoom it in for us, that'd be cool.
Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so this is Model YL. This is, basically everything that you'd find in the ancillary bay. So this right here is the high voltage controller, which is unique for the YL. We've got the PCS down here underneath, the big silver box here. This is PCS 2 Lite. So this is what allows the bidirectional capability. And it's actually quite a bit smaller than the older style PCS. And then everything else in here is more or less the same. You've got, your pyro fuse, all your low voltage wiring, coolant lines, high voltage stuff. Yeah, all that's pretty much unchanged.
So then we should discuss the battery pack configuration, because that's different than the other cars as well.
Indeed. So if we scroll down here, this table, let's see, I'll try and zoom in a little bit more there. So this table gives us the pack configurations for all of the different, basically Model 3 and Model Y battery packs. So long range, Gen 2, what we see currently, 2170 base pack, 96 cells in series, total of 4,416 cells. Whereas on the YL, we've got 100 cells in series, which brings the total cell count up to 4,600. The parallel count of cells is the same, so they've just added 4 extra cells in series. The way that the pack is laid out for Model 3 and Model Y typically is basically 2 different module sizes. So on the outside edges of the pack, you'd have 23S modules, and then the ones on the inside would be 25S. So I'm assuming that what they're doing here is they're just putting all 4 modules have 25 cells in series, would be my guess.
Yeah, they're kind of just fully populating the battery pack now. And they're bringing, because it's 100S, what does that bring nominal voltage to? Like 370 volts nominal, something like that?
Yeah, it'd be somewhere in that neighborhood. Let's see. Let me do a quick. Well, yeah, it'd be 370 volts nominal. Fully charged, you'd be
420.
Yeah, 420.
Yeah. So it's a little bit higher voltage, which means you might get a little bit better performance at lower SOC. And what we don't know is which actual cell is in this. Is it the pre-existing Panasonic 2170 that's in the long range, or in all the other Model Ys, we should say, or is it the performance cell that's the new Kentucky produced Panasonic 2170? They're both 2170s. They both have a little bit different chemistry going on, and we don't exactly know which is which. It would almost, it's only 4% more energy than the long range all-wheel drive short wheelbase, right, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty small difference. So I assume it's going to be using the older style chemistry that's in the pre-existing packs, and they've just added a couple more cells in series. So it's just a very slight increase in capacity, where the performance is, 84 kilowatt hours?
Yeah, performance probably is a little bit more energy dense and power dense. It seems like that's kind of a next generation cell, whereas the YL might be using the older cell, which is what like you have in your car, Dad. And those have a really, it's an NCA cell. Those have a really steep degradation hit in the first 6 months to 1 year. And then hopefully they do seem to kind of level off. But like, Dad, your car's already lost right around 5% capacity, and you've only owned it since what, February or March, and it's July.
Time to get a Model YL.
There we go. So that's, thank you for the nerd stuff there, Alex. I think we should, as more information pops up in Tesla Toolbox. By the way, anyone can subscribe to Tesla Toolbox and get access to Theory of Operation. It's what, $70 a day, Alex?
Let's see. I believe it's $75 for 1 day access, $150 for 2 days, or not 2 days, for a month. So for $150 you get a month, $75 you get 1 day, for $700 you get a year. So I mean, it's really geared towards either people that are trying to repair their own cars and just need a real short-term subscription, or to shops that need longer-term subscriptions that are doing, work on a regular basis.
Yeah, so that's good to note for sure, just because I know people were going to ask where we found that data. I want to thank Tesla for providing us really good, detailed information on this car. I think, we it's not like we were told early or anything, but when they launched it, they were like, here's the data. So I really appreciate their team over there for getting us that. YL, I think, is going to be a massive seller here in North America. We love big cars. And so while I think the majority of, folks maybe with just 1 or 2 kids, or small, single family folks, or whatever it might be, the standard Model Y is going to be just fine, Model Y and Premium. There's so many use cases for the YL that I think people are going to, because Tesla software is so good and FSD is so good, you will be seeing families really try to make this car work. I really think Tesla also needs to offer a proper 3-row SUV, 7-seater, R1S style competitor, but this is just going to be an absolute hit. You're going to see them everywhere, and it's going to sell really well. That's my prediction. Coleton, and then we'll go Dave, and then finish off with Alex.
Yeah, really excited to have this here. In certain ways, I think there's things that I think are maybe slightly missing on this car, but overall as a package, I think they kind of nailed this, especially considering I really feel like it's almost in its own category, being a little bit smaller, still efficient, and like has room for families. It's not like a big, suburban with, monumental amount of space in the back. But I do think there's going to be a lot of people who, realistically, the thing we don't cover all that often is, the family stuff, and realize like how unbelievably big car seats are, the amount of stuff you carry with kids. I think that's where this is actually really awesome. A family that has, maybe a second child on the way. I could see a lot of people going for this. And I really do think the price point on this is amazing. I think if this came out and it was $70,000, I might be having a little bit different opinion, but I'm really excited for this, and I can't wait to see one in person to feel how the car is dimensionally, get in and out of it. And again, like you said, Kyle, all the benefits to Tesla having amazing software, dog mode, keep climate, FSD, the amazing app. I think this is going to be an absolute seller. They are going to sell the heck out of this thing for sure.
Yep.
Dad, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So final thoughts. This is very interesting. I'm happy with what we have with our Model Y, the premium rear wheel drive. And if this were available for 12 grand more, wouldn't have gotten it. Right. It's mom and I right now. It's all we really need. We fit everything that we had in the Model S, which holds a lot, into the Model Y. And we were able to come down from North Carolina. We really don't need much more room. If I need much more room, I got my F-350. Okay. But what's really interesting, Kyle, I've been working with a guy on the deals side of the business who was looking for an R1S. He wanted a quad motor, and he just texted me, and he said, screw it. I bought a Model Y. He just ordered that blue color with the new whitish seats, whatever they're called. He's like, I'm done. So this is going to pull sales from the competition. I don't know how much it's going to cannibalize the existing Model Y buyers, but some of them who are like, honey, we can make it work, we can fit the kids in. Now those Model Y buyers, they're going to get the L, clearly, right? But for the guys that absolutely had to have the 3 rows, here's a guy that was looking to spend, he was looking to spend 105 grand on a pre-owned R1S quad motor, and he just ordered this. So now maybe that's a little bit of a weird extreme, but what this is going to do is it's going to potentially steal sales from pre-owned Gravities, pre-owned R1Ss, and he's probably sitting there saying, you know what, I could put an addition on my house now because of how much money he's going to save. So they're going to sell a lot of these vehicles. I'm a fan. Not for us. I'm happy, thank goodness, because now retired. Don't want to be spending and buying a new car after we just got this one. But man, oh man, they're going to sell a lot of these vehicles.
Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty nice overall package for what they've done. A little bit surprising that they didn't bring it here a little bit earlier. And it would have been nice to have seen if they would have brought the sort of improved battery chemistry from the Performance for even a little bit more of a capacity bump. But I think it's going to be a really nice package for people. I mean, Model Y just gets the job done. And, this one being just Model Y, but slightly bigger just means, it'll fit use cases for a lot more people.
That's a great point. And I think the best way, if you're, listening to this podcast and you haven't yet had a chance to play around with one, think of it as a bigger Model Y, but also a much more premium Model Y. This is what actually should be called premium, not the normal premium Model Y. It should be like Model Y minus as the standard, then Model Y as what my parents have, which is the Model Y premium. And then this should be Model Y plus, maybe. And it really is, with second row cooling, with the moving armrests, with that crazy sound system, with most importantly the noise improvements from the glass and the super comfortable suspension. I'd be really curious to see how much of the Chinese tuning options made it here, since Tesla has a slightly different adaptation of their software in China versus here. It's largely similar, but we may not get the rear passenger comfort mode, because in China it's seen as like almost a downgrade to sit in the passenger seat versus the rear. So you would have a lot of executives sitting in the second row versus here in the US up front. We may not get that option. We'll see. But it just seems awesome. So definitely go over, check out my full tour of the Model Y L. I have that video on Out of Spec Reviews. It'll be linked in the description, or you can just Google or YouTube search Out of Spec Model Y L. And a lot of people don't realize that when I say I'll leave something in the description and I forget, you can just look it up on YouTube as well. Sorry. And I think that brings us to the end of the show. This is going to be a huge seller. Thank you all for joining us. Congrats to Tesla for finally bringing it here. I can't wait to get my hands on one. And in the context of R2 at 60 grand, and that's for the performance version, and this sort of Luxo Model Y in the same price region, especially by the time you option up a R2 with the color, we have good choice in the $60,000 region. It's like iX3, Model Y L, R2, all different flavors for what you're looking for, and it's pretty exciting. And should I not forget about EX60 as well. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all in another one again soon. Bye-bye.